Good evening, and first, thank you for this invitation, this opportunity to share with you something less happy and less optimistic than what we just heard from our friend from Tunisia, from Egypt, even less philosophic or deeply developed as we had listened this morning. I will talk about the civil society and the revolution in Syria, not like in your program, the war in Syria. No war in Syria, it's a revolution. It's a war against civilian and not a civil war. Since 15th of March 2011, the Syrian people decide to make their revolution following the wave of the Arab Spring or Arab Revolution. The beginning was with demonstration from March 2011 till September, end of September 2011. It was 100% a peaceful demonstration, but from the side of the people, from the side of the regime, it was 100 killed per day, and without any reaction, military reaction from the population. The first militarization of the revolution began with the defection of 100 of the military forces, Syrian military forces. They decide to leave the army because they decide to not continue to kill their people. Of course, after that, we can talk about military rebellion, but we must continue to talk about the revolution, civilian demonstration, peaceful demonstration, role of civil society, role of the humanitarian help inside Syria, role of the what we call the citizen journalists inside Syria, because all this atrocity happened in Syria without any media following. The Syrian now, they believe from the beginning there was only there was without any support from anyone from outside, unfortunately. And they believe also that they must pay for all the international and regional bargaining on many other issues. Till now, the number of killed in Syria is 90,000 killed, mostly from civilians. The number of displaced is 3 million of displaced people inside Syria. The number of refugees around in the neighborhood in Lebanon, Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, it's around 1 million, even in Egypt. 50% of the infrastructure, it's completely demolished. The regime used not only the airplane, but use also what the missile, Scud missile, to distract village and town. At the same time, when we can see the position of the international community, the Western country said all the time, it's the Russian problem. The Russians continue to use veto. The Russians continue to stop our intervention to help Syrian people. It's the maximum of hypocrisy of Western country. Each time Russian use veto, all the Western country are happy because it's the Russian save them from any engagement, from any responsibility, from doing anything. Of course, I show you in the same time some photos without, I try to not put body or blood because we have many only show you what the new artists, young artists in Syria try to do to show their catastrophe, what they live. Here it's the refugees camp in Jordan. It's an inhuman situation. All the declaration, and I can confirm that all the declaration you heard from your government or other government about the humanitarian help to Syrian people, it's a lie. Only a lie. Of course, 89% of the humanitarian help who go inside Syria come from the Syrian diaspora, from the Syrian entrepreneurship who live abroad, in the States, in France, in Germany, in the Gulf. And the other part of the help come from the Gulf country. Very little help come from international and especially Western country. And more than that, sometimes when we have some help from the Western country, it must go through the governmental organization to help the people inside Syria. It's mean going to the Syrian government to help the Syrian population killed by the Syrian government. It's more, even Kafka cannot write such. And of course, for the Syrians, now they believe it's primitive art. It's in the demonstration you can see this photos or this painting or this caricature. It's very simple people without any political background. They believe that because Syria don't have any oil, don't have any uranium, it cannot be neither Libya, neither Mali. But at more than that, we must look on the map and see when it's Syria. Syria, it's next to Israel. Israel, it's the country who receive the more protection and more support from the Western country. If Israel continue to believe that Assad regime preserve her stability and security, the Western country will continue to hear only the Israeli word and no to hear the word of the hundred of millions of Syrians who was killed by this regime, who preserved the border of Israel since '74 from any incursion, from any terrorist attack or resistant attack. Is the city of Homs, the third city in Syria. Of course, when we talk about the international community, we talk especially about Russia. Russia, since '89, they feel themselves marginalized in the international diplomacy, and now they want to use the Syrian issue to bargaining better with Western country. And the solution is not in the Syrian opposition. The solution is not inside Syria. The solution is between Russia and Western country. And the Western country continue to make condition on the Syrian opposition, asking first to have unified opposition. The Syrian create their unified opposition. They ask them after to make a guarantee for the minority. The Syrian opposition include minority. We have George Sabra, who is the head of the Syrian National Council. We have Michel Kilo, one of the famous opponent in Syria and head of one of the most important component of the opposition. We have the father Paolo Dall'Aggio, who is Italian, but he lives in Syria since 30 years, and he is engaged with the Free Army in Syria. And continuing to ask the opposition, I think we will, the Western country, to escape from their responsibility. In the future time, they will ask the opposition to make a guarantee concerning the climatic changing. Civil society in Syria was under monopoly of the government, and it was with complicity of the international community, and I take Annalind as example. The member who represents Syria in Annalind from the civil society side, not from the government side, it was more governmental than the governmental represented. And the European Union support in Syria two different category of civil society. First, the civil society of reception of cocktails. When those people meet with the ambassador in their reception, they talk as us in English. They are not as me, better than me. They are without veil. They are women who are without veil, and also perhaps it's better if they drink with us a cup of wine, of beer, because it's our image. And we need to look on our image, and we don't need to work with the real civil society. The second civil society supported by the Westerns, it was the GONGOs, governmental, non-governmental organization, or the FLANGOs, First Lady non-governmental organization, or RONGOs, Royal non-governmental organization. All those organizations of civil society, very corrupted, was supported by you, because you pay your taxes, and from your taxes, the corruption was supported by your government. Of course, Russian, they have their interest, but also others, they have their interest. And we talk about civilian revolution, we talk about revolution composed by many ethnicity, many religion. It's not Muslim revolution, it's not Sunni revolution as we show you in the media. And for the anecdote, one of my friend journalists was in Aleppo, a French journalist. He asked me by Skype, I need a jihadist. Can you put me in contact with a jihadist? I told him, if you don't find a jihadist, just write it. He told me, no, I am sending by my newspaper to find a jihadist. If I don't find a jihadist, my editor-in-chief will be angry against me. It's more sexy to have a jihadist. It's more sexy to have blood. It's more sexy to have people with beard and machine gun. It's not sexy at all to look on the children, to meet with people in the street, to ask people about their life, to meet with the organization now who work on the humanitarian help inside Syria every day, to work with journalists, citizen journalists who make a huge work, to meet with those artists. I don't know those artists before the revolution. They are the artists of the revolution. And this is Syria, it's around its international community. But the hope continue to support people. It's only the hope. And if they have some reference to the religion, if they have some spiritual refuge, it's normal. After 2 years of bombarding, of killing, of destruction, asking people to be relativist or I don't know why, it's a very lecture request. And in the same time, Syrians work on the day after. The civil society in Syria work on the day after. They established a project for the day after, concerning the constitution, concerning the women's rights, concerning the pluralism in political field, concerning the political party, concerning the transitional justice. It's the work of the civil society. They continue to work together. They continue to discover each other, because since 15 years, since 58, Syria live under fear, under suspect. Nobody trusts nobody. In the same family, you have deletion. You have people who write report against sister, against brother, father, against son. for the security system. And the security system in Syria we called securitocracy. It's not even policy country. For me, I can make a comparison with Spanish War. It will be a little bit shocked for you when I talk about the Spanish War to talking about Syria. Because in the Spanish War, it was Republican against Franco. Franco received support from the Nazi and the fascist. Bashar received support from Iran and Russia. The Republican don't receive any support from the Western country, even France, who was socialist government. And with this empty place, the radicalization of the Republican come from Stalin, and the radicalization of the Syrian revolution come from the Gulf country or the Gulf money. And if we continue to see the situation and to say it's crazy, we don't know the alternative, it will be very difficult to know who will come after Assad. The radicalization will be more and more important every day. It's my city, Aleppo. We found in the river 82 body killed by one shot in the head. Per Paolo Dell'Aggio, Father Paolo Dell'Aggio, who is from the Catholic Church, he prayed with Muslim doctors in north of Syria, and the price of this, the prayer of the Syrian is the same. The hope of the Syrian in this smile, but the Syrian decision concerning international committee is like that. Thank you very much.